G'day guys, welcome to the Forged by the Fire podcast. I've just had a great chat with Joe and Joel all about radical responsibility and how empowering it can be in small situations around station life and home life, and how to have these conversations with your kids even. What else do we go into? We've talked about
accountability,
resilience, avoiding all the pitfalls in victim or blame culture. It's been a big one. Been down some pretty deep rabbit holes. Hopefully you get something out of it. I know I certainly did. I had a great time. Thanks for all your engagement too. We've had a lot of responses, a lot of direct messages from folks sharing a bit of their story and a snippet of what this community is doing for them. So that's hugely inspiring. Please keep the stories coming. We really appreciate it at our end. It's massive, and that's what we're trying to do, is build a community where we can share these stories that have an impact for the other people, our brothers and sisters around us. So thank you for your feedback. Keep the stories coming. If you do want anything shared up here or questions that you want addressed up here, just let us know, drop it in the comments, and join the conversation. Appreciate it, team. See you in the next one. Way to start. How about we do some quick fire questions, see what comes up out of that, and then we'll go from there. Cool. Joe, you're first. Your section. Yeah. All right. Responsibility and blame. When something goes wrong, what's your first instinct?
Blame someone else. Depends what it is. If it's definitely my fault, then I take responsibility for it. But depends how serious as well. If it's like a comedic thing, then I'll try to blame someone on my crew because it's funny, but it depends what it is.
I should also mention too, if there's a question that comes up that's like, whoa, this is way too personal, just say pass. Yeah. Have you ever realized you were the problem?
Absolutely.
What's the mistake that changed you?
Ooh, what's the mistake that changed me?
A mistake, I should say. So we can come back to that. That's like a big
Probably
one.
Yelling at my kids too much.
All right. Is blaming ever healthy?
No.
What's the difference between fault and responsibility?
People can be at fault, but everyone can take responsibility.
Do you think most people overestimate or underestimate their control?
Underestimate.
Frontline culture. After a bad job, what stories do we tell ourselves? And a bad job meaning one that didn't go well, like for our own performance.
I guess that we try to pat ourselves on the back and say we did the best we could, but sometimes we know we didn't.
Boom. Do we debrief honestly or defensively?
I think a lot of people do defensively.
Is ego the biggest barrier to ownership?
Yes.
What happens in a crew when someone won't own their mistake?
Resentment.
Does rank make it harder to admit fault?
Absolutely.
Is harden up anti-responsibility?
Yeah.
All right, I think we'll stop there. I think there's more than an hour in that, Joel, before. All right. Let's settle in, folks. Joel, I think we'll get on to yours a bit later. Let's go there. What immediately came to mind for you guys? The biggest ones.
Oh, the rank one was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see it very clearly that, especially at different jobs, rank seems to be like, oh, I can't be at fault because I'm in charge. Like, it's you guys that stuffed it up.
Yeah.
And a time in rank.
What's that?
And a time in rank too, I found.
Yeah.
So, if you've got a senior firefighter who's been in 25 years as opposed to a senior firefighter who's been in 3 years, same rank, but the taking of responsibility will differ.
I think they've just got better at passing the buck.
Yeah. And I think like that time and rank point, I think I found this just the other day actually. I find training sometimes you almost avoid the stuff that you need to train in. Crews avoid the stuff you need to train in because you're almost like, oh, I probably faded in that. And now I'm like, however many years a senior firefighter, I can't go relearning those things. Like I just had it the other day the first time in a tunnel, like a bat bee tunnel. We're just doing a short bat bee wearing. And I was like, how do you turn around like in a really tight space again? I was like, I haven't done this since for a long time. And it was clunky. It was like, I used to not even think about spinning around in a tunnel. Now I'm like, oh man, yeah, we just like, it's kind of things you don't really train in because you almost not like get afraid of it, but
it's a comfort zone thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have anyone pushing you outside to go and do those things, let's just slide on through. Like it's 2 days, 2 nights. We want to have a good 2 days so that we have a good 2 nights, you know? So that's what I found. Like, yeah. But then whose responsibility is it to push that, you know? Like, is it from an officer or is it from a...
I think it should be our own.
Should be you,
it's my own drive now that's like, oh man, I'm clunky at turning around in tunnels. I want to go back into that tunnel and try turning around again, you know? Like...
I hate to be the devil's advocate, but like, how many tunnels do we go
I know,
into? Like,
it's so true. Like,
it's a very specific
it is
turnaround thing. And who knows that situation will be the exact situation? Like, I don't know.
100%. I agree.
But I do think training random things and making different situations difficult is good for us.
Within reason.
Yeah,
because I've also done a lot of training that made absolutely no sense.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like,
whatever we would ever do.
Yeah, there's so many things that we do just because that's what is in the handbook or what we're going to get checked up on, but we'd never do it. So, like, is it better to make ourselves into awkward situations where you actually get stuck and then your crew member has to come and help you? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Be in a vulnerable position where you can't get yourself out and then it turns into a mayday. Like, we don't actually do any of that stuff. Yeah. We kind of just react.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So anyway, back to the sorry, I think I went off on a tangent there. Your response to after a bad job, what stories do we tell ourselves and do we debrief honestly or defensively?
Yeah, I think it depends on the job, of course, but yeah, there's quite a few jobs where you make this stuff up and lots of people don't own it. They kind of just be like, that, what happened? Like, I don't know, just slide past it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been jobs where, like, we've turned up to a big fire. I said the whole time, why is the tanker not coming with us? And everyone's like, oh, that's the volunteers' job. We can't take the volunteers' job. And then we get to the fire. It's a massive K99 fire. And then we're trying to run out of B-type when we could have had the tanker just sitting behind us. Yeah. And then by the time we'd run out the B-type in a massive panic because it's full flames, everything's going, and then we run it out and then the tanker turns up. Like, and don't know how many times I've said it to the officers and the bosses, like, why are we not doing this? We can't touch that, it's the volunteers. I'm like, but the volunteers could be in a ute right up our ass. Like, they're going to be faster. The tanker is slow. Like, they can take it over as soon as they get there, but I don't know. And I've said this many times, but because of protocol and that's how we do things, it just gets shunned. And I'm like, well, that's just dumb. It's such a simple thought, or it's we're taking process over what is actually going to be better for a job. And it's frustrating, but
is there are people more defensive in taking responsibility or not taking responsibility because of that's the way it's always been done?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone just gets defensive and they've got something to fall back on. Yeah. Like, oh, this is what it says, so we can't do that.
And
like,
change is hard to make.
Yeah,
within the service.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that causing a big issue too? Is because of hierarchies and protocols and policies that it's easy to slip into that.
Well, I think it just gets rid of common sense sometimes, because then you have to go to the area manager and then they have to go to the district manager and the district manager has to come back to the volunteers and make sure that they're okay with it. And it's like, it's a stupid process. When the vehicles are sitting here, we should make quick decisions. Like, that's what we're trained to do, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, process and hierarchy definitely slow it all down. And then people in hierarchy positions are like, oh, that seems like a bit too much work for me, so just shut it down. But yeah, I'm on a tangent. That seems like, a moment.
That's fine.
But then that's still not taking responsibility, right? Like what process is there to take that responsibility then? There's obviously an identified issue.
Yeah.
And it won't just be the tanker scenario that will be an issue, right? Like it'll be something else.
There's always more.
Yeah. So
it's just a very personal
how's their responsibility taken?
That's a good example though. Like, because there's stacks of examples like that in the job where, as I say, procedure or process seems to get in the way of common sense, and that can be super frustrating. Yeah. But I guess as Joel's saying, like the question is, how does responsibility, I suppose, take the play out in that sort of scene?
I guess in those positions, it's the hierarchy, and like we were saying, people in the positions of hierarchy don't always take accountability for things that they can change. So it becomes a difficult process.
Because at our level, like I guess like in that specific example, right? Like at our level, then if that's procedure and process and stuff up there that we can't change because of the way things are, then it's like, is that hypothetically an something we could work out like with the volunteers of like, hey guys, if we go into a fire that we're fairly certain we're going to need the tanker at, would you guys mind if we just
so bypass the hierarchy, you mean?
Kind of, and just create our own local procedure, like
that is probably something I could just talk to.
Is that, I mean, there are going to be times though as well, like that's going to be taken way out of context, and then it's just like we've created all these local procedures that are completely unsafe. I don't know, it's just the way we do things. We don't worry about emergency PA teams here.
I feel like we're getting very specific.
But I mean, it's a good example. I don't think that's an issue. It's probably a very relatable example of instances that happen everywhere, and it is, instead of just attributing blame, because I think what brought this topic up for me was after the mount slip, right? That was a super significant incident in our area that's gonna sort of leave its mark on history for our whole city, but our brigade and stuff as well. And just like day one, you saw social media and stuff blow up with whose head are we going to take? Like it was.
They were hunting for a head, and it's a natural disaster.
Yeah, and by just definition of that term, natural disaster, it's like these things happen, and yes. I think there's something to be said for the review process of like, okay,
what can we do better?
Yeah, should we have looked at that campsite and put a retaining wall there? All those reviews, fully worthwhile. But it seems like that process of trying to improve safety just end up in well, who's to blame? Who didn't put that retaining wall there? Who, and then it comes down, I don't know, I feel like,
who cut those trees down?
Yeah. It's like, come on, this, it's completely, we've just completely defeated its own purpose. Whereas I think that blame culture, I'd be interested to hear from you guys, is that part of our just the industry we work in, that after an incident there needs to be someone to blame, or is it part of Kiwi culture in general?
I think it's part of every culture. I think everyone looks for a reason why things happened, and then thinks that someone should have mitigated that before it happened. But there's thousands and thousands and thousands of different scenarios that you cannot predict. And if you are trying to bubble wrap everything, then society will shut down. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And it was, I can't imagine what it was like for the families. And I understand like you kind of want to find a reason why, but sometimes shit happens. It's, I don't know. I don't want to be insensitive either, because
obviously it's tragic,
a horrible position to be in, and it was devastating.
Interesting though that the mount was quite a significant event and was widely reported in the media, but in Papamoa, there was also a significant event where people died, but the blame, both the landslides, but there was blame on one end for the mount, but there was actually no blame purported against.
I guess that's the difference, because one was council.
Is it because it's significant?
One's council land and one's private land. So the private land just became a natural disaster, and then the council one becomes, they should have done this, so they should have done that. There was so many things going on that day. Everyone was stretched. Council were everywhere trying to mitigate slips all over the city, and then a small one was happening at the mount at the time that everyone raised alarms for, but they had a look at it and it wasn't very big, so they kind of left it and moved on to the next big one. But then it turned bigger. And then everyone's like, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. Like, man, I feel for those people that were going around and assessing things that day, because what looked like a minimal slip then turned into something bigger. But you can't predict that. Like, there were so many little slips around the city that we were going to, and you're like, oh, well, that's not going to get any bigger. But again, you can't actually tell. You've just got to look out for number one at that position. Like, if you're in the campground and someone, I don't know, I can't even say that. You can't predict anything. I don't think anyone was in a position thinking that they were going to put more people at risk by saying, no, it's okay. It's a horrible position to be in, and then to have someone tell you that you did it all wrong when it went bad. I just can't imagine how that is for that person or those people.
People being put in the firing line when it's like, man.
And had they gone the other way and evacuated the campground and nothing happened, then everyone would probably complain.
Correct.
That they got moved for no reason. And that's a massive overstretch, and council were flexing their muscles, and I don't know. It's a horrible position to be in, and I guess that's why people don't want to be on the councils as well.
But it is so big, I think, it obviously happens on that large scale. I mean, we saw it again with the Auckland floods, however many years ago now. Just a few years ago, the Auckland mayor. I mean, I didn't follow everything super closely, but it's like, what was the mayor going to do to change what happened? Like, that was a massive, massive event. You can't blame these colossal cyclones like that. You can't predict where it's going to hit and how much water and how much wind and all that stuff. But yet the mayor was just loaded into the gun and fired. Oh, okay.
I think the more you realise, they're in the position, but I don't think they have as much power as they are perceived to have.
Basically middle management, right?
They're middle management, and then they're just the fall guy when things go bad.
So there's this culture, I think, pretty evident all through, whether it's just the industry or the country, I don't know. But that filters down into our sort of daily activities too, where now, I don't know, I think that culture runs right down to our level as well, where we, as you were explaining before, Joe, people don't act because they're afraid if they do something, that's going to be the very thing that that they get blamed for. So when you said, do people over or underestimate their control, and what's the difference between fault and responsibility? What does that look like in our
we're getting pretty deep. I do think, even as firefighters, we think we don't have that much control, but we actually do. And I think we use the hierarchy as well as an excuse not to do anything, because we know if we don't push it, or we may send an email out and it'll come back as a no, And we're just, oh, well, can't do anything about it. But
no, we're not just, oh, wow. We're like, that's my whole career's work. You've just thrown it in the bin.
I guess there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And you kind of, if that approach doesn't work and you really want change, then we should probably keep pushing till we get it. I think we can easily just blame hierarchy. Like, oh, well, we tried, we got shut down, that's it.
Yeah.
Just moan about it. And I'll probably do that too much as well. But the accountability, we can take action on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And probably mitigate it for ourselves instead of blaming others.
It's just so easy to do, right? I mean, like it's so common in our culture that it feels wrong to be the one that's like, oh, they said no, but I'm going to find a way. Everyone's like, settle down. Like, I guess there's tall poppy syndrome as well playing in there, right? Like, I 100% agree. Like, we have way more control than I think we give ourselves credit for, or like give our role credit for, I suppose. You know. Was there anything that stood out to you, Joel, from those questions? Oh, when you said, what's a mistake that changed you? You said something about yelling at kids.
Oh, there's probably more to do with like my mental health at the time, and it was more of a realization.
Yeah.
Like I was coming home grumpy all the time and yelling at my kids, and like sometimes they deserve it, but sometimes you need to. But I kind of found myself doing it for no reason and for really petty things. And then that was kind of the realization that I probably wasn't okay mentally, and I probably needed to seek a bit of help. So I did that, and it was actually really good. And being able to talk to someone and kind of vent and then have that, I don't know, I had the big young to the psych and started listing off all the things that were going on in my life, and he kind of stopped me and was like, you know, people come to me for like a quarter of this. So just letting you know it's all justified and like you can continue on this, it's good. And I was like, oh. And just having that realization that all the stresses that were going on in my life weren't just like petty things. They were proper situations. So I don't know, getting the help and being able to maybe prioritize them a bit better, or just even having them justified was quite good for me. And then being able to make the steps to work through it all. Like things were happening that weren't going to change but had to just keep going. So having that resilience just to keep pushing instead of folding over. But yeah, that yelling at my kids was a quick realization that I had to change something.
I really admire that, because like that is the most significant demonstration of radical responsibility, right? Like when you realize in yourself that's like, actually, I'm not being fair there. There's something wrong at my end. And then you've gone out of your way, gone out of your comfort zone and addressed it. I think, you know, like we heard Joel's story the other week. I think that'll be in real time. That'll be online in a week or so. But, you know, both of you are such extraordinary examples of how to take radical responsibility for your own family, you know, like in situations where, you know, like Joe, you're just saying, you have so much going on. You're like, you know, it's not small stuff. When you're busy, it's a different kind of busy, and you still, you know, take that step of radical responsibility, you know, starting with the most important stuff in your family and your own, you know, your own sort of, your own structure, your own foundations, whatever it is you're built on, taking responsibility and taking it. I just think that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I guess I'm also lucky, like coming from a sporting background, we use psychology to make gains and make processes and help us perform better. So going to a site for me wasn't really out of my comfort zone. It was more something I just hadn't got around to on the long list of shit that was on my list. But I truly believe in the fire service and all emergency services, we should be getting compulsory checkups at least once a year with a psych, because like sometimes like it's the simple thing, you don't know what you don't know, and everyone goes through this life thing, I'm sweet, like everyone's got bigger problems than me, or like we can all have a great moan around the coffee table upstairs. Like we're very good at that, but sometimes it takes talking to a professional to trigger that thing and be like, oh, maybe I'm not as okay as I thought I was. Like we all kind of shun it off and just think it's fine, but sometimes I check in with a proper person who has the skills to get that little bit deeper, or that bit more out of you is super important. Like, I don't know, how many guys do we know in the fire service that have, well, in our lives, that have taken their lives that we thought were sweet, we thought they were okay, and they weren't, and they were guys that we thought were tough or strong or had it all together. Yeah. And maybe that compulsory chat with a psych or someone could have been the trigger for them to seek better help, or I don't know. Yeah, we're exposed to some pretty extreme stuff, and we kind of just like let it slide almost. Yeah. Like we all think we're strong enough to just be like, oh, we can deal with that, it's fine. But that on top of something else, on top of family life, on top of like building or a car, or like all these little things compound. Yep. And what you think you're good at, like, oh, that doesn't affect me, can then stack on top and stack on top and stack on top. And you think you're good at all these individual things, but you're not good at everything stacked together. And that can be the tipping point. So, and I personally would like that to happen, but if not, I would push for everyone to maybe take accountability and maybe just do the checkup themselves. Yeah. And like book in, why not? There's no stigma around it. There's nothing wrong with checking in. I think it's probably better that you show you're vulnerable and you look after yourself so you can look after the people around you. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Where do you lead off that?
Right. I was like taking it in. It's good, you know, like I admire that coming from someone like you, you know, like I think you are the kind of person in a brigade, in a team like this, that's like, you know, people naturally look up to and think, oh, yeah, I want to be as tough as Joe, whatever, you know, like a lot of people do, you know, when you've got a role model in a brigade or a team, whatever it is, if they say, oh, just tough it out, then the culture of that group is tough it out. Like, don't talk about it. So, yeah, I just think it's awesome, you know, hearing that coming from more and more leaders, and, you know, I think it's great. Encouraged to hear it. It's great.
If seeing a psychologist if the view on it is changed, then it'll become easier.
Yeah, that's
if it's seen as another piece of training, because I just think, you know, this conversation wouldn't have happened 12 years ago when I first joined the fire service. It was not, but a culture change has happened. But if it's viewed more as a training piece or a physical piece, and then your mental health, then you're gonna get that change. But it'd be a work in progress, because I still think about the senior firefighters I worked with back in the day.
They're still here.
They'll still be around.
There's still guys coming through.
But if you told them they had to go and work on their physical fitness to pass the physical test each year, then they would go and do that. So it's just
reluctantly,
but there's always going to be relaxed. So it's just trying to change that culture, and by what you're doing and sharing and you know, being that leader, it's definitely going to help. But yeah, some people are still going to be hard to reach. So how do you reach them, I guess, is the next target.
You change the script to make it weird that they don't seek help.
Yeah.
Make them feel awkward that they're not looking after their mental health and they think they're fine. Like, I don't know. You don't want to use it as it's a very fine line between making mental health an excuse to why things happen. But I think we need to turn it into a tool. Like you said, it's training, it's resilience. We need to build our mental strength in checking when we're not okay, but also making ourselves stronger in that regard as well. It's like someone talked to me a while ago who was going through mental health problems, and everyone kind of talks about the stacking up and all that stuff will make you pop or make you, I don't know, get PTSD or something like that. But also in the same regard, all those things that we're exposed to can also make us more resilient and more stronger if we use it in the right way. I don't know if that's making sense.
Yeah, I
love that.
Where you said one thing that tweaked for me is like you said, mental health problems. And so can there be a change in the language?
Yeah.
Because you probably wouldn't say physical health problems. Like if your biceps are too small, it's not a physical health problem.
Yeah.
It's just something you need to work on.
Yeah.
So if we can change the language and it's not a problem anymore, especially like I think with radical responsibility, if you change the language, that's a real easy shift in mindset to start that process. So if we talk about our mates who are maybe having a mental health struggle, it's not a problem that needs to be solved. It's just some mental health learnings that we need to go through to build that resilience, and part of that building resilience is to go and talk to someone else, or it's to go and talk to another colleague, or to do a bit of reading or something like that. And it's that training piece. If that language can be changed, will it be better to shift that focus for guys?
I think a lot of mental health uses, well, maybe not mental health, but I don't know, people hear different, like you said, the terminology in mental health can be a bit like maybe airy-fairy, like let's work on our wellness and our positivity and let's do some reflection and some and that just, like in our job, everyone just sees it as it's a bit strange. But like you said, if you change the terminology and let's work on our mental resilience, or let's change this mindset, then I think language plays a massive part in why people don't dive deeper into mental health.
Because naturally you don't want to accept that you have a problem.
No.
So if it's framed as a problem,
there's
two ways to go. Right, firefighters are very good at solving problems.
Yes.
In a quick, let's get it done, but it might not be the best way to do that. So it's hard to see like your mental health as a problem. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but it's
let's change it from tricky. Being a problem.
Try and change it from a problem.
How do we strengthen our mental health?
Yeah.
Without it being a problem. Yeah.
Because I used to always, like when I was training and things like that, I'd say, man, if you hurt your knee, you'd go to the doctor and you'd get it sorted, and there's no stigma around that. Your brain's just another muscle, or an injury or whatever. Just go. And you go see a doctor for your knee. Why not go see a doctor for your head? Yeah. It's no different, but it's that stigma around the language of having mental health problems or issues.
Yeah,
it's different to having a knee issue.
Yeah, get on top of it before it becomes.
No, it's good. I am not worried at all. I like what you say, Joe. You've said it a few times on here about we all talk about how how challenging the stuff can be that almost makes you weaker in a way, but we don't really talk much about how much this job can make you stronger. Can you expand on that? Where did that start?
I guess it's a hard one because you don't want to come across like you're a psychopath, but like we're exposed to some pretty extreme situations that I only kind of catch myself when people are like, oh, what's the weirdest thing you've seen? And you start describing it and they're like, you see them like step back and you're like, oh yeah, this is probably too much for the average person. But like, I guess it's one of those things we are exposed to a lot. And if you let that compound in a bad way, then you will pop mentally. But if you discuss it and you talk about it with the right people, like how do we resolve that, or how like that was weird, but I don't know, it can definitely give you more resilience. And I think a lot of people now don't have as much resilience as they once used to. I think we've changed resilience into like you shouldn't be exposed to that, like that's someone else's fault that's happened to you, and we don't kind of just accept it's life. Sometimes shit things happen to lots of people. It's no one, like it can be people's fault, but sometimes shit just happens. But yeah, if you're exposed to it, talking about it so it doesn't become a cloud or a bad memory or like something that can trigger you, turn it into a positive. I'm trying to explain this in a way. Like, I watched an episode of Bluey with my kids, and like there's one about the farmer and his son, and like something bad would happen, and he's like, oh, the public comes to him and they're like, oh, that's terrible, and he's like, I don't know, it might not be, it might be, like I don't know. I need to find this analogy because I'm not doing it justice, but like his son breaks his leg, and then like that's a bad thing, but then the army come to take him away for war and he can't go because his leg is broken, so then he's left home, like so it's a good thing. Like bad things can become good things, and we don't know the flow and effect of what's happening. Sometimes shit happens, but it can be, you can flip it into a positive. Every bad thing that happens to you can then become a positive, weirdly, as much as you don't think it can be or it could be.
I love that. So like, what I understand is like it's the whole, instead of this blame culture or victim culture that's becoming really kind of popular and very easy to latch on to, where it's like, oh, this has all just happened to me, woe is me. You're saying this sort of resilience training, what this job is actually good for is building you up to actually take responsibility, and instead of avoid being a victim by being that level of resilience. And
it will be the positive change in a bad situation. Like don't let everything that's bad happen to you make you an asshole and be like, oh, that's why I'm an asshole, because something bad happened to me. Like that's just excuses, and it's a terrible way. Like it's a terrible thing in our culture now that everyone is using. Something happened to me, and that's why I'm a dick. Like, like no, like it's such a poor excuse, and it's I don't know. It's using blame culture to become worse. It's blaming someone else for your situation, and then being a worse person because of it. And then using that excuse to say, oh, that's why I'm a bad person, because someone else did something to me. Like, I don't know.
That's where that mindset framing is really important. Like you say, the broken leg and then the army come. Like framing, yes, this thing sucks, but the positive in it is this. And so it's trying to change that framing of a lot of people, which, is the language of what you use around it.
Joel, could you speak to that? I feel like a lot of your story has that through and through, right? Like you had every excuse in the book to be upset or like, to play that victim card. I feel like in your story there is an awesome demonstration of that resilience, that responsibility that's you've taken, and you made some big identity changing decisions. Do you feel like you could talk to what Joe was saying there, like through your lens?
Yeah, I think like 100% when I first went through like big stuff, it was a blame thing and not taking the accountability for my actions. And I had to really work on, like, yes, this sucks. Yes, I'm in a position that I don't want to be in, but where to? And I think it was, for me, through all of that, it was really important to like have something on the horizon, which at the time was, like just getting through the day for my kids. Like it was really small shift that I just need to get through tonight into tomorrow morning for my kids. It's because they don't know. I tried to shield them as much as I could from what was going on. They don't know what's going on, so they just need dad. But ultimately, it was a conversation and talking about it with a professional that changed that. By acknowledging that, hey, what you have seen and what you're going through is not normal. And I guess it comes, like, especially through the services, it's understanding that what you guys are doing and seeing day in, day out is actually not normal to the everyday person. So, yeah, I think an acknowledgement at the start is really important. And then that mindset framing, there has to be a change. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like, an awesome demonstration of, that you just had one thing that you could take responsibility for, I suppose, and you did. I think that's a really cool.
And small steps, right? Like, get through the night, get to the morning. And then it's, what's my next step? What's my, make it a little bit bigger. Like, how am I going to have these conversations with my wife or my friends or something like that? It's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit scarier to how am I going to change, or what can I do to change the situation? Like for me, it was cutting alcohol, cutting social media, which, those at the time were a much bigger, much scarier steps. But again, just one day at a time becomes 5 years. Because you can use compounding negatively through all the stuff you're going through, but you can also use it quite positively. That one day becomes 2 weeks, becomes 1 year, and all of a sudden it's those big problems are not so big anymore because you've used the compounding positively.
It's the old how do you eat an elephant type situation.
Yes.
It's one bite at a time. Or the old how do you, like, the wolf that you feed is the one that gets stronger, so you can either feed the good wolf or the bad wolf. Yeah.
Awesome. I think we've kind of gone over Joe's questions there. When something goes wrong, what's your first instinct? Yeah. Oh, so I guess a good wrap-up question was your response to, is blaming ever healthy?
Blaming is easy and it's really, really simple, but at the end of the day, not really.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to achieve from it? Like, you don't need to tell everyone that it was someone else's fault. You don't, like...
Just give someone else all the power, right?
Yeah. It was just trying to deflect it. Like, yes, it may not have been your fault, but who cares? Like, could you have helped it get better is probably what we need to look at.
Yeah. You ready to face your quick fires, Joe?
Hope they're not as hard as Joe's ones. Oh, man.
All right. First section, mental health and ownership. Can taking responsibility actually reduce anxiety?
100%.
Where does responsibility become self-blame?
I think you have to be very careful that it doesn't, because you can spiral really quickly. And I think it's framing is when it doesn't.
Is victim mentality contagious?
Yes.
Does social media encourage blame culture?
Oh yeah.
Can you acknowledge trauma without living in it?
Yep.
Does radical responsibility build resilience?
Oh yeah, has to.
In an argument, do you listen to win or understand? You can say pass.
Yeah, I think it's a work on, right? Like, I think you can be doing both at the same time, but what's healthier? And it's a hard one. Yeah.
Are you the same person at home as at work?
I work from home, so it's quite an issue for me. Yeah.
What do your kids see when you mess up?
I think what they see now is responsibility, but what they've seen in the past might not be that. Yeah.
Have you ever apologized properly? Well,
yes.
All right. I think we'll stop there. We're going down I think straight up that your response, first one, can taking responsibility actually reduce anxiety? You said yes, and I fully believe so as well. How does that look?
I think anxiety, by taking responsibility, there's some ownership there, right? Mm. And a lot of my anxiety is the what ifs. Mm. And so something bad's happened and I've taken responsibility for it. I'm started on the process of removing a lot of those what ifs. So if, I don't know, I've crashed the car. For an example, I haven't. But
Joe.
I've taken responsibility for my part. Whereas if I don't take responsibility, start looking to blame, then you can heighten your anxiety because of what if they find out I'm lying? What if? And it's by taking responsibility, you start to remove some of those what ifs. There's always going to be what ifs, but you can, I feel like you can start to shrink those. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, you go, Joe.
I was just thinking about it. Like, when you do make a mistake and you take accountability quickly for it, instead of, like Joel said, all the what ifs and trying to mitigate all the problems that you think might happen, and all that weight starts piling on your shoulders, when you take responsibility for something pretty quickly, you generally find that everyone around you most likely wants to help make it better. Yeah. People don't generally like to add on more shit. Like, they'll give you shit. But like, most people generally actually try to help resolve a situation. And when you take accountability for it, then they're not questioning whether it was them or like, they're more likely to jump on and be like, this is how we can fix it, more than like, ooh, you fucked up. Yeah. Like, it's weird. But when you try to hide from it, then the blame game starts happening, and then everyone starts piling on, and then people start talking behind your back, and it kind of adds to it. It makes it worse. But straight up accepting that you fucked up or anything like that, generally people try to help and try to build you back up instead of pushing you down further. Yeah. So it flips the script pretty quickly. Yeah. There's always different situations, of course, but
for sure,
most of the time. Yeah.
I think to me, it seems like a really practical step. Responsibility seems like a really practical step to reduce anxiety, because anxiety is like and I should know the definition way more than I do, because I just not long ago wrote an entire essay on it. But anxiety is like that lack of control, right? Like, that's anxiety and excitement, very, very similar. The difference is the unknowns, that lack of control, the fear, all that stuff. The moment you take responsibility for it, I think you've got so much more of that control back. So natural response then to me would be, that does reduce anxiety because you're taking that control back. Where does responsibility become self-blame though? You said framing. I think that's a really good point. What kind of framing would you use to prevent responsibility from turning into just self-blame for everything and taking responsibility for too much?
I think it's that in a voice and a critic that you have, and how those conversations in your head continue. I think once you've taken responsibility, then it's better to start looking forward and starting that process. If you take responsibility and you keep looking back, and the cycle of what has gone wrong or what has happened just keeps permeating around, rather than looking at a step forward, then the responsibility becomes a whole lot more blaming and self-blaming. There's probably still going to be part of that, that's part of the process of processing that, like of going through those steps. But I think you have to be really careful with that in a critic, in terms of that language. And this happened because of X, Y, Z, how do I reframe that into this happened, next time I'm going to, or I need to address A, B, C.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think for me, I find the line blurs mostly with people and like relationships and stuff. I find, there are certain relationships or things or something that like I want to help them or whatever it is, and I find it really easy to overstep into. Then when they stuff up or whatever it is, I'm like, I take that on as self-blame. Like, I should have done this and that would never have happened. Or whereas that's to me taking responsibility for what they're doing. There are certain things that I can do and or coach them on or whatever it is. But then if they backslide, or if they, stuff up again or whatever, I think that for me is where I find that line most difficult to define between responsibility for what I can impact and then self-blame for like, well, it's just not, not got anything to do with what I have power or control over, Yeah. Don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, is it when it's maybe there's a delineation then between responsibility and control. That how much control do you have and what is not within your control. And so then you take responsibility for what is, but being careful that not stepping that too far with what is now no longer in your control.
I guess it's when you step the line and start looking into the what ifs. What if I had done that? What if I could have done this? What if I could have stopped that? It's very different to, I don't know, sometimes you have to let people make their mistakes. Yeah. And you can't do anything about it. But it's a hard one. Are you taking responsibility for other people's problems, or are you taking solely responsibility for what you can control? Yeah. Because then are you trying to be a martyr, or are you trying to be a victim? I don't know, there's a fine line. You can go any way in any direction for any problem. You can blame everyone else and it's never your fault, or you can take all the blame and make it all your fault and take it all off someone else.
And it is the kind of line where only you will know and only you can be honest with yourself. You know, like no one else will be able to say, oh, this is where definitively you crossed the line. You can, like, you have to be honest with yourself, and it's difficult at times to be like, actually, that's where I crossed the line. And, you know, like, I feel like it's something only you can do, and that takes,
I feel like this is a hugely important part of being a parent. Is like you're taking responsibility for someone else, but they also have to make their own mistakes to learn from that. And you've also got to be able to guide them and not take all the, like, you want to be nice and kind and helpful, but you also don't want them to live life not knowing that their mistakes have consequences.
Correct.
Like we can I think we as parents in this day and age almost like coddle our children too much. We try to do too many things for them because maybe our lives were quite hard when we were kids, but I don't think that's a service to the next generation. I think mistakes are a massive part of what makes us learn and develop. And I don't know if this has gone on a complete different tangent, but
it's so true. So who cares? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an important one, eh? You want, like,
for a simple question, it goes way deeper.
I was just thinking like of the kids and stuff. So the maybe whether it's an analogy or not, but when my kids want to ride their bikes, we live in a cul-de-sac, I'll go down and I'll watch them. And, you know, like I take responsibility for watching their safety because they're kids, right? They're not always seeing all the cars and whatever. But if they fall off their bike, I don't go to them because I've told them, I'll keep telling them that they need to get themselves off the road because I'm not always going to be looking out for them, and so they need to take a bit of responsibility for getting themselves to a safe place. So how we apply that to different parts of our lives is, but that's, you know, like one practical example of, I guess, I take responsibility for what's in my control, but also letting the kids make their mistakes, get a taste of the real world, and then start to build that skill to take some responsibility for their actions, as in falling off their bike or scooter or whatever, and then starting to make a change by getting themselves to a safe place, if that makes sense.
100%. You're giving them the tools that, you know, you're teaching them how to problem solve for themselves and giving them tools that will actually last them a lifetime instead of just, I guess, dealing with the immediate risk, which is very tempting to do, right?
Oh, and I've had to have many conversations with my wife about, you know, this is what I do and why I do it to, change. Yeah, because it sucks seeing your kids cry, you know, or scrape their knee or bleed knees or whatever. But, you know, it's not necessarily about riding the bike. It's not necessarily about falling off the bike. It's about what's going to happen when they're 15, 18, 25 and something hard happens. Because if they're still falling off their bike at 25, then we've got a little bit of issues going on, you know, like I probably should have taught them how to ride better.
Take responsibility for that. Dad never taught you to ride, did he?
No training wheels, just straight into it.
Your kids to ride their bikes, though, sometimes it's hard. I have a very stubborn 5-year-old.
Something to look forward to, Levi.
Yeah, I know.
Teaching the kids to ride.
Yeah. It is funny though, like, and just the difference in kids at the moment, I'm noticing. Like, wow.
Just when you thought you got one sort of there, you're like, oh yeah, I've got this. The next one's going to be easy. And a completely different person. You're like, nah, shit.
Yeah.
Learn a completely different approach.
Like, my eldest, her like first instinct is like she's got to fix it, and it's the biggest emotional thing until everything's better. So she just runs into addressing it. Probably growled my 10-month-old. Probably she was just about to like chew on a power lead, and like growled her for the first time, and her instant response was just hide. She like crawled off and just like didn't look. I was so like opposite from what Jim has been. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be different. You know, like, is this going to be easier or more difficult? I have no idea. While we're on the topic of kids, sorry about that tangent. That was just a personal anecdote. Yeah. Your answers to, are you the same person at home as at work, and what do your kids see when you mess up? Let's stick on the kids train. That's a tricky question. So you don't need to go super deep. But I think it's an important one too around responsibility, right?
Yeah, I think what your kids see when you mess up, like it's hard to admit fault. You know, especially you want to paint a picture for your kids that, hey, things are good a lot of the time, because the world is a big scary place, and so trying to. Yeah, but I think there's massive value in being honest with them. But I think that's also dependent. So, you know, my 10-year-old, I can have quite honest conversations with because his maturity level is developing. And so for him, he can kind of start to reason, you know, hey, Dad's stuffed up and he's taking responsibility for it, but Dad's still a good person and it's not going to affect me. Yeah. Whereas if I have that similar conversation, obviously different wording with my younger one, you know, who's 4, then it's they don't have those reasoning skills or the maturity to accept that. I think like can you read the question, the last bit again? It was the
the same person who's working. What do your kids see when you mess up? And then is that the part you wanted to hear?
Yeah. When you mess up, I think so the one thing we do, because I think it's really important to see like when you mess up, but also when you have a win, to balance it out. And so one thing that we started doing in the last kind of 6 months is that when we sit around the dinner table, we have a chat and everyone has a turn, and the rule is you're not allowed to speak unless it's your turn. You're not allowed to ask questions to the end, and it's a good thing from the day, a hard thing from the day, and something you're looking forward to.
Cool.
And so I think out of that, it's the good thing and the looking forward to can be quite generic, but the hard thing is a really good opportunity to show my kids that, hey, my life's not all that great, and sometimes I have this struggle, or I've done something wrong today, or whatever. And it's really sparked a lot of conversations when our kids are having hard times, because we found that kids would come home from school, how's your day? Good. And that's the full extent of the conversation. And that'll be standard across so many things. Yeah. But by having this set everyday good thing, hard thing, looking forward to, then, hey, we celebrate some wins. We go, hey, we messed up here, or this is really tough. And then you have that future promise. And sometimes it's the same thing every day for a week for my kids. And, you know, they're looking forward to Christmas or birthday or grandma coming, or something like that, which is good to have that hope. And then sometimes it's, you know, looking forward to something that's tomorrow. And so they've got some more immediacy in what they see. But I think it's really key to have, we can always have the good thing and the looking forward to, because that's easy. Yeah. It's the hard thing that, has made me a lot more vulnerable with my kids. Within reason, I'm not gonna, I'm not.
You're all.
I'm not gonna. But hey, if I've had a tough day or something's gone wrong or whatever, it's good for them to see that hey, mum and dad don't have it all together. Yeah,
I like that too, because I think a lot of the common advice is like, oh, your kids can't, for my age group, the age group my kids are, a lot of the advice is, your kids can't process emotion, so basically avoid it. Like, that's not what they're saying, but a lot of it feels like just avoid emotions altogether. Whereas like, well, that means it's my responsibility to help them with their emotions. And then you're also like, I guess, teaching them healthy ways of expressing them and demonstrating healthy. I love that. I think that's a real cool take home, actually. It's a good way of,
and it's normalizing a conversation that of hard things, because no one likes a hard conversation.
Yeah,
no one wants to admit when they've or put themselves in a position and say, hey, look, this is where I've stuffed up, or this was a hard thing for today. But if I normalize those conversations from my kids, when they're 10, 8, 4, then when I have to have those conversations with them when they're 18, it's a normal thing, it's not going to be that big scary thing in the corner anymore. Yeah.
And also, like, because, I don't know what age group they begin to, but I think kids so readily take on, if dad's having a hard day, they take that on as almost their fault in a way. Whereas if you're expressing what else is going on, that helps them to understand, it's
something else, yeah.
Yeah. It's not me. And then you get, my daughter she's so compassionate. And if she sees you struggling with anything, she'll just come and give you the biggest hug. It's the most rewarding thing ever. I love it. I feel good now. Yeah. No, that's cool, Joel. I love it.
It's interesting, like, you will get different reactions. So like my 10-year-old, I'd say I'm having a bad day, he'll just be like, whatever, like, oh yeah, that sucks. Whereas my 8-year-old, like, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you, Dad. That real compassion.
Yeah.
And the 4-year-old is just like, where's my lolly? Where's my candy? Like, when's my turn to speak? Yeah. So you do get, the different reactions, and it's good for everyone to have those.
Well, setting good examples. And being vulnerable is not a weakness, like everyone used to think it was. It's showing that we all have hard times, and then it's showing them how we get through them as well. So, yeah, it is super important.
Joe's question was, what's your biggest hero moment or your biggest win on the job? Is that right? I think I remember that.
I can't remember. This is your job.
Yeah, what's your biggest achievement or coolest moment in the job?
Am I asking that to myself as well?
Yeah. You know the answer.
I don't know. I think the coolest one that I can remember that felt like a hero moment was like literally the second week in the job. I'd just gone to Devonport. There was an attempted suicide where a girl threw herself off a cliff, but then as she was falling, grabbed onto a branch and was hanging on. And we got sent from Devonport. The high angle rescue team couldn't turn up for some reason. So literally we had a roof kit and a harness, and we wrapped it around a tree, and I just went over the side and grabbed her. It was like, kind of felt like a movie because it had the Westpac helicopter and the police helicopter both hovering at different points looking at us. And I was hanging on to this girl, and like I had the radio, but they were like, can we pull you up? And I was like, I can't reach it. So just had to wait. And the helicopter must have communicated, and they started pulling us up and got this girl back up onto the top, and it was pretty cool. But yeah,
out of it.
I don't know, it was crazy thinking about it afterwards. And like my arm was wrecked for like a full year. Like I couldn't, I had no grip strength in my arm, and I could never figure out why until I kind of thought about it a couple of years later, that I was holding on so tight. Yeah, wow. But yeah, that was my weird hero moment. It kind of just happened without realizing. But yeah.
Yeah, that's out of it. I think like a moment that stands out, same like probably second or third weekend, we went to this person's reported house fire. Everything just went so well. Like the whole setup, kicked in the door, went inside, raging fire. It was like everything you imagine the job would be from after watching a movie. And I was like, I was running high on adrenaline, and my senior firefighter comes up, taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, turn the water off. I was like, oh, okay, water off. And he's like, look at this, man. This is crazy, eh? And then he's like, carry on. And goes wanders off, continues searching the house. I was like, and he's so right. Like just that moment, I was just like, this is out of it. Like this is pretty crazy what we're doing. And just to be reminded in the moment too, to like, just, I suppose, not get too caught up in the adrenaline, but, have a look what you're doing. And I thought that actually set a really cool trend for the rest of my career too, where like I often remember that when I'm sort of moving quite fast, whatever, just I often remember like, be that senior firefighter that can pause and have a think about things at the same time. Obviously not at the cost of anything like that. Cutting someone out of a car. How crazy is this, eh? Yeah. Any memories from you, Joel?
The one that stands out was probably after I left the job, but I was lying in bed one night, and I was in Papamoa, and the fire siren goes, which was normal. But straight after, I get a phone call from a friend who's a volunteer, and she goes, oh, what's your address? Knew where I lived, but didn't know what number I lived at. And she goes, oh, there's a heart attack at your neighbour's house. And they are really good family friends of ours, and they're grandparents, adopted grandparents to my kids. And, so bolted out of bed, went next door, and Papa was having a heart attack. And so managed to get in there because I'm so close, started working on him, and we got him back. Wow. Got him into an ambulance, and, when I was in the job, that was always a win, get them to an ambulance. But that was 4 years ago. Yeah. And he's still going strong.
Go, Joel.
My kids get to, still get to hang out with Nana and Papa. So that was kind of didn't get too many wins in the amount of CPRs I did, but that was right place, right time. Nice. And my friend thought to ring me,
And right training too.
And right training, like it was normal for,
Good stuff. That's a huge
take that one.
Love it.
What's one piece of information or something you'd like to pass on to your 60-year-olds out?
60-year-olds out. Ooh.
The hard one, not the... Yeah.
Or like what's something you'd like to remember from this point?
When your memory's gone, what would you
Because I don't know, it's always to go
Yeah.
back, give 15-year-olds have something, but what's something that you'd want to project forward to you, or something that you'd like to
What's good in your life right now?
remember, or something like that, like as a 60-year-old.
Nah, cool. I think we'll finish that recording there. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.